Most sea monkey clones follow the same formula: imitation tank, a pile of brine shrimp eggs, and ultimately a failed aquarium full of broken dreams. But in 2003, one Taiwanese bootleg dared to take its underwater adventure a step further than the others, but then it vanished, completely disappeared without a trace. But now, after being hidden away for more than 2 decades, it's finally resurfaced. This is Sea Babies, the weirdest sea monkey bootleg you've probably never heard of. I was scouring the depths of the internet one night when an innocuous Google search brought up a low-resolution image that caught my eye. The subconscious part of my brain had picked up on something that I wasn't yet aware of. The picture showed a blue box with the hyphenated words "Sea Babies" written up top, the rest of the text being in a Chinese script that I didn't understand. The middle of the box had a wiggly cutout, a window giving a view into the product inside. But it was the bottom right corner that really caught my attention. It featured the illustration of a happy little fella who had 3 long antennae emanating from his head. I was shocked, but I knew instantly what I was looking at. It was unmistakable. A sea monkey product cloned from China that nobody in our community knew existed. Wait, no, not China. The picture I'd stumbled upon was from Jobii, Taiwan. The listing's single photo appeared to show a bootleg of the Sea Monkeys Ocean Zoo kit, but without seeing it in person and not being able to find any more photos of it online, it was difficult to say for sure. The Sea Babies kits were being sold for only $5 each, and the listing said that there were still 15 of them in stock, but unfortunately, international shipping wasn't an available option. Now, I know exactly one person who lives in Taiwan, so that would be my only shot. After reaching out to him, he told me that he was overseas for work and wouldn't be home for another few months, but that I could get back in touch with him once he had returned. 3 months later, on the dot, I reached out again, and then shortly after, a box from Taiwan arrived on my doorstep. And now, after more than 2 decades, let me introduce you to Sea Babies, the brine shrimp pet product which was almost lost to time. Now, those of you who are super deep in this hobby like I am will notice that this packaging is quite similar to the Sea Monkey's Magiquarium, but I don't think that's where the inspiration here has actually come from. There is an incredibly rare Sea Monkey kit from the early 2000s which was produced by Bandai for the Japanese market. Of course, no one in this community has this tank other than Todd Machin. This kit has a blue Magiquarium style tank which came packaged in a cardboard box, though this Bandai tank didn't feature any of the glow-in-the-dark elements which are seen on the Magiquarium, and that's what separates the two. These are all features which are shared with these Sea Babies kits, and the timeline for the two lines up perfectly, not to mention an Asian influence being far more likely as well. So that's what I think we're looking at here. Sea Babies is a Taiwanese bootleg of a Japanese sea monkey tank from the early 2000s, but it's not an exact copy. They actually added an extra feature, so let's take a closer look. As I mentioned, it comes in a cardboard box with the name Sea Babies written at the top in both English and Chinese. Coming down below the window cutout it says, Marine Life Observation Tank, and the text at the bottom in yellow translates to 21st Century Amazing Technology. Now, if we consider the cryptobiosis of brine shrimp cysts to be a kind of biological technology, then this tech is millions of years old, not something new in the 21st century, but I will concede that it is still amazing. Turning over to the side, and there's a large paragraph here that basically tells you that the eggs will hatch and then grow into mature adults in 4 to 5 weeks, which is when you can then expect them to start mating and producing eggs. Funnily enough, they're referred to as sea monkeys several times in the text here, no beating around the bush. The other side of the box has a kind of life cycle diagram with photos of different developmental stages, though the picture showing a mating adults is super odd looking, like someone has gone a bit rogue in Photoshop and made their bodies unusually long. Flipping over to the back and we get a really good look at the Sea Baby illustration here. It's clearly a copy from Sea Monkeys, but somehow even uglier, though in an oddly endearing way. We also see a preview of the kit's contents, and at the very bottom, in a very fine text, is a 2003 print date, making this over 20 years old. The condition still looks brand new though, so it's clearly been stored really well during that time. While we unbox this kit, I want to remind you that we do monthly giveaways over on the picocosmos Patreon page. You can join for free, or become a paid member to receive some extra benefits. Everyone who joins is eligible for the giveaways, so head on over and join now, link in the video description. So we'll take a look first at the paperwork here. Now, I'm not going to go through all of this, but I will touch on some interesting points. This section in blue gives some general brine shrimp information, again, often calling them sea monkeys, while also mentioning that they can survive in a massive salinity range of 10 to 242 parts per thousand. This is why I tell people setting up DIY tanks that being super accurate with your salinity level isn't of much importance. This next section says that they can survive in a temperature range of -3 to 42 degrees Celsius. While this is somewhat true, they can't survive at these extremes for very long periods, with around 26 degrees Celsius being an ideal sweet spot. Turning over, and this top section in pink actually has some great information. It says that you can't just use sodium chloride or regular table salt for your sea babies, as they also need other minerals such as sodium, potassium, magnesium, and calcium. The rest of the information here is basically just a setup and feeding guide, with a mention that your sea babies can survive up to 50 days in good conditions. I'm hoping we can get ours to live a little longer than that though. Overall, this is a great info sheet, a lot better than what I was expecting. We'll take a look now at the 3 packets that came with this kit. The green number 1 packet is what they call seawater extract, so I assume sea salt. The orange second packet is the sea baby's eggs, and the blue number 3 packet is the sea baby food. This third packet here feels basically empty, so I'm interested to see what's inside. Next we have 2 AA batteries that were included. These have a 2006 expiry date and are also quite corroded, so I'm just going to use fresh ones instead. What are the batteries for though? Well, let's have a look at the tank to see. This is only ever referred to in the manual as being an aquarium, with no mention of any snazzy name, so I'll just call it the Sea Babies tank. My first impression here is of course that it looks very similar to the Sea Monkeys Ocean Zoo and Magiquarium tanks, and I mean that in a good way. The plastic is thick and sturdy, giving it a high quality feel. The walls of course have the iconic sea monkey magnifying bubbles, but I've also noticed an odd texture in the plastic here. I don't even know if texture is the right word, but I can see these strange squiggly lines. I don't know how well this is showing up on camera because the effect is very subtle, and also quite odd. The lid and base are a navy blue, just like that Bandai Sea Monkey tank and the Magiquarium. Now, I mentioned earlier that a friend of mine sent me this from Taiwan, but he didn't post just one to me, he actually sent me 4 Sea Babies kits, 2 of which were in this navy blue colour, and the others which are a lighter baby blue. I don't know if it came in any colours other than these 2, but if others do exist, I haven't been able to find any photos of them. Again, the lid here is just like the Bandai tank, with the large hole on top for feeding. It's in 2 pieces, so you can separate them if you want to, a feature which is helpful when using aquarium accessories. Coming down to the base, and we have what is pretty much an exact Sea Monkey copy again. Not that I'm complaining, as the textured substrate on the bottom is a really nice design. Those of you with a keen eye might have noticed this little switch on the front here. It's a light switch which controls a light that's built into the base. We have to use a screwdriver to remove a small screw here, which lets us pop in 2 AA batteries to get it working. The light is a warm white colour and isn't particularly bright, but you've got to give them props for at least trying to do something original here. Overall, yeah, it's a blatant Sea Monkeys copy, but it's great for brine shrimp, so regardless, I'm looking forward to getting it set up and trying it out. Before we do though, I want to have a look at the salt packet under the microscope. I can see that it's definitely absorbed a bit of moisture over the years, which is why it's all clumping together, but the crystals are still relatively intact. After a bit of searching, I couldn't find any eggs in here either, so unlike Sea Monkeys, it looks like this pouch does indeed just contain salts. Since the salt and eggs are decoupled with this kit, it gives us the unique opportunity to set up the tank in the best possible way by cycling the aquarium before we add in the eggs. Cycling is the process of establishing the nitrogen cycle in an aquarium, which is really just a fancy way of saying that we want the tank to become colonized by beneficial microorganisms before we add in our sea babies shrimp. Microorganisms like ciliates and microalgae form an aquarium's foundation, working hard as a little cleanup crew to remove waste products like ammonia and nitrogen, which can build up in the tank and harm your pets. I'm going to set everything up here and then leave it for a few weeks, periodically adding in small amounts of food to encourage the growth of the microorganisms that naturally find their way into the tank. Only then will I add in the eggs for our sea babies. I'll update you again in a few weeks so we can try and hatch those old cysts. Hey guys, it's only been 2 weeks since I first set this tank up, but things in here are already starting to look pretty good. You can now see a fair bit of green algae beginning to develop on the rocky substrate that forms the tank's floor, which means we're almost ready to add in our sea babies. The reason why my tank has developed algae so quickly here is because I've been growing brine shrimp in this house for a few years now, so the air is absolutely full of free-floating algal cells. That's the main reason why I can see algae growth quickly, but you might take a couple of months before you see similar results. The algae of course needs something to eat though, which is why every couple of days I'm adding in a tiny sprinkling of the sea baby's food into the aquarium. This will mimic the conditions of how the aquarium will actually be once everything's properly set up. I'll give you a quick look at the sea baby's food under the microscope too. I'm not sure exactly what this is, but the bulk of it definitely looks and smells like spirulina powder. There were some lighter coloured particles in there too, but again, I don't really know what those are. While we're here today, I'm also going to seed the sea baby's tank with a little gunk from an already established sea monkey aquarium that I've had going for a few months now. And just a quick note, this tank is a little side project that I've been working on recently, the Pico Pirate Ship kit. It's a modified Sea Monkeys Ocean Zoo with a glow-in-the-dark 3D printed lid and sunken pirate ship ornament. This brand new product will be available for pre-order soon, exclusively over on picocosmos.store. And of course, paid Patreon members will be getting early access. So, the gunk from this tank is full of the stuff you'd usually expect to find in an established brine shrimp tank. Algae, diatoms, ciliates, and of course discarded exoskeletons. Adding all of this into the sea baby's tank will help to establish that nitrogen cycle and make sure the aquarium is ready for the eventual arrival of the sea babies. I want to wait 1 more week before we add those eggs in though, so I'll check back in with you this time next week so we can finally get this thing started. Hey guys, we're at 3 weeks since setting up this tank now, and things are looking really good here, so it's time to add in the eggs. The egg packet had somewhere around 1,000 eggs in it, which is obviously way too many for a 300ml tank, but since these cysts are so old, I'm just going to add them all in anyway, in the hopes that something might hatch. Now, I know to a lot of people in this hobby that waiting this long to add in the eggs might seem a little excessive, but when it comes to fish keeping, aquarists usually recommend waiting a full 4 to 6 weeks to properly cycle a tank before adding in the fish. So we're actually doing this on a bit of an expedited timeline. The irony here, of course, is that these eggs are so old that in all likelihood nothing's going to hatch anyway, but we'll just have to cross our fingers and wait to see. I'll give you another update soon, so we can see if any of those Taiwanese sea babies managed to hang on for all these years. Well shit. Looks like these things were stored better than I expected, because a lot of them have hatched. I don't think this was necessarily anything to do with me cycling the tank first. It's probably just because the packet was doing a really good job of keeping any moisture from getting inside. Now when you get large hatch rates like this, it's inevitable that some of the babies will pass away. This is just a normal part of brine shrimp keeping that many of us in this hobby are all too familiar with. Usually, this die-off is quite a cause for concern, because decomposing bodies quickly deteriorate water quality, which can then crash the entire colony. Because this tank has been cycled though, I'm not all that worried about having such a massive hatch rate here, as the small microorganisms which have colonized this tank should be able to deal with the potential die-off. I'll wait another month or 2 for these guys to grow into adults, and then check back in with you so we can have a good look at their internal light, and so I can give you my final sea babies review. Good morning! It's now been a whopping 3 months since I first set this tank up, and a little over 2 months since I last gave an update. You can see that the spring weather has really done wonders for this tank, as it's now full of sea babies with plenty of adults, juveniles, and babies. I haven't used a heater or air line in here for quite a while now, because all of this warm weather we've had has kind of made it a bit redundant. Now, while not all of the original hatchlings did survive, a larger number than usual definitely did, which is partly why the population in here is bigger than usual. I put this down primarily to the cycling I did early on, and also because all of the sun this tank's been getting, which has really allowed the green microalgae growing in it to thrive. The water here seems to go through periods of being a dense green to mostly clear again, basically depending on the weather and the amount of sunshine. This has meant that I've only fed them their powdered food once every 10 days or so, or really just when I remember to. Now, brine shrimp keepers are usually told to avoid direct sun, but really, sun isn't the issue. Rather, it's overheating which can be problematic. but as long as the temperature doesn't exceed 30 degrees Celsius, the more sunshine you can get into your tank, the better. While the journey with this kit has been a little longer than usual, it was cool to resurrect some really old eggs, and while the tank is mostly just a sea monkey's copy, at least they copied a good design. And I mean, it does have an internal light, so there is some innovation, even if it's small. Speaking of which, let's finally get a good look at the light with the sea babies swimming around. Since the plastic substrate here is pretty gunky, I gave it a quick clean with a toothbrush just to help that light shine through a little more easily. So, ignoring the obvious issue of this light being powered by batteries that sit in the tank's base, it's actually a really nicely implemented design. It makes nighttime viewing of your pets a fun experience. The sea babies look like they're enjoying frolicking in their nightlight too, so it gets my seal of approval. Overall, this sea babies kit's been a lot of fun, and while not particularly exceptional in any one area, I'm glad I had the opportunity to bring it out of obscurity and into the limelight. And since I still have a couple of these kits left, I'll donate one to next month's PicoCosmos giveaway, so make sure you're following on Patreon to enter. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.